So I'm going to be doing this pretty much through talking as much as possible. There is the chat window, and that's probably the best way for you to ask me a question. Okay, so I guess we should get started here. We're going to talk about Photoshop today for poster design. Let me, let's see, do a poll here. I think we can do a poll. Okay, so some yes and some no. Ideally, this is probably best aimed at people who have used it before. Photoshop is not an easy program to start learning. Generally speaking, when we are telling people to use to create a poster, we steer them towards PowerPoint, simply because most people know how to use it anyway. It's just better geared towards that sort of thing. But it's not anywhere near as powerful as Photoshop. So in order to really take advantage of some of the amazing features, you obviously do need to be using Photoshop. But again, if I bumped the mute button on my microphone. Thank you for letting me know, guys. Is that better? Okay. So I don't know if any of you have been to the Digital Media Lab before or not, but we're in the Weigle Information Commons on the far west end of the first floor of Van Pelt Library. There is always someone on duty when we're open who can help you with things like Photoshop or some degree PowerPoint, certainly helping you make a poster in PowerPoint. It's a self-service lab, but we're there to show you how to do what it is you need to do. So you should please very much feel free and comfortable coming into the lab. Let's see. Try to. You can't hear me right now, I guess, one of you at least. Okay. 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 So, let me get started actually using Photoshop. We have an hour, I guess, here today. What I'll do is, the way I'm gonna work this is I'll do a little bit of something in Photoshop, then we'll stop. I'll ask questions, or rather you can ask questions of me, and we can talk about it. And then I'll go on to the next topic. So let me share Photoshop with you. If you have Photoshop, you should feel free to open it up and kind of follow along with me. I have some files on my computer I'll be using, but you should be able to at least like follow through with the menus and to see where things are, etc. The actual Photoshop skills involved in what we're doing today are not that complicated from a Photoshop point of view. But again, if you're new to Photoshop, they might seem a little advanced. Hi Max, I see you're joining us there. I don't know when you came into the room. Okay. Max, you can hear me, right? Good. Okay. So this is Photoshop. I've already opened it here, and the first thing we want to do when we're making a poster in Photoshop is simply to set up the blank document itself. And to do that, we go to the File menu and New, rather. When you go to the File and the New menu, there's a whole bunch of options here that we can fill in. One of them is the name. The name is important. The default is Untitled, but you don't want to be in a situation down the line where, where's that poster I need to print out for this conference in 10 minutes? Is it Untitled 32 or Untitled 51? Give it a title that you're going to be able to find later if you search your computer for it. This Alice in Wonderland poster. Photoshop has a bunch of preset sizes divided into these various categories. We're actually going to make a custom size today, so I'm not going to use any of these. And I have actually already entered, it looks like it just remembered from the last time I did this, what size I want to make my poster. So I'm deciding ahead of time how big am I going to make my poster. This is kind of important. You don't want to start making a document and then later decide you want to make it double the size, because that can cause some problems. And worst case scenario, if you're really not sure how big your poster needs to be yet, better to make it too big than to make it too small. And it's a lot easier to shrink it down later than it is to enlarge it. So I made mine 3 feet wide, 36 inches by 24 inches, 2 feet tall, and the resolution is 150 dpi. I put 150 because this is what we print posters at in the lab on our poster printer. So if you come here to print your poster, that's what we're going to size it at, is at 150 dpi. That is plenty high quality for photographic quality images. Below that, you start to see a difference. Above that, you really don't notice too much of a difference. 150 is more than adequate, and also when you go to a higher resolution, you're getting a much larger file size also. So the higher the resolution, the more actual pixels Photoshop has to remember. Much bigger file, takes up more room on your computer, harder to email to yourself, etc. I'm going to leave this other stuff the way it is. If you wanted to make your poster, just recently, in fact, we've had a bunch of people coming in, they want to make a poster that's a meter wide, for example. Over here, where it says inches, if I click on that, you can choose a bunch of other different units. The most meaningful which there is probably centimeters, so you can just change this to 100 centimeters and have their poster be exactly the size you want. Okay. One limit, if you're going to print with us, and you should actually, no matter what, you should check with the people that you're going to be printing your poster with to find out how big the poster printer that they have is. Ours is 42 inches wide, so the paper is 42 inches wide, which means at least one side of the poster has to be 42 inches or less. It's on a big roll of paper, so it can, we've had 42 inches wide by 10 feet long. That's a very large poster, but it can be done. But if you print with us, at least one of your poster sides has to be less than 42 inches. Okay, so the Kinko's or Campus Copy, they're going to have similar limitations. It may or may not be 42 inches, but best to check with them ahead of time. Okay. If you're not sure how big to make your poster, generally I'm guessing that we're talking about basically about research posters here for the most part, and people going to conferences. The conferences generally have some sizes, like they'll tell you, we're going to give you a poster board that is 36 inches by 48 inches, and your poster has to fit on that. It can be smaller than that, but it can't be bigger because it has to fit on that board. So you want to check with the conference or the event, wherever you're going to go to present your poster, to find out how big it has to be. Okay. Any questions about any of this so far? I'm just going to click on OK to actually start my document. No questions? One of the drawbacks of this online thing is, like, you can't see people's faces smiling or heads shaking or nodding, so you get like no feedback. You just kind of, it's like being a radio announcer. You just assume people are listening to you. So please, if you do have questions, please go ahead and chime in on the text window down there. All right, so we have a blank poster right now. Now, what we want to do first, because all it is a rectangle, and we know in our minds this is supposed to be 36 inches by 24 inches, but just to give us a sense of where we are on the page at any given time, one nice thing you can do is to turn on the rulers. I usually use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command R on a Mac or Control R on a PC, but if you come to the View drop-down menu and you come down to Rulers, and I click on that, you see these rulers have appeared now on the top and on the side. Okay, the 0 starts at this corner right here. So this is 0 and then 2, 4, 6 inches you see here, right? And here's 36. Something else we can do in addition to these rulers to help us line things up and know where we are, there are a couple things we can do actually. One of them, I'm going to come back to View, and I'm going to come to Show, and then Grid. And this actually puts a grid on the page. This can be distracting, as you can imagine, but when you're trying to line things up and you want things to be, in certain locations and look consistent, this is a good way of doing it. I'll click on the magnifying glass down here or press Z for zoom. As I click, I'll zoom in. And you can see, the ruler's getting a little bigger here as I zoom in. And then also you can see better what these look like. So basically, at the moment, there are these lines once every inch, and then there are these dotted lines once every quarter inch. You can customize that. If I go into the preferences, what I usually do is I just double click on the ruler, which will take me into the preferences for the rulers themselves. And then I just come down one to guides, grid, and slices. Over here for grid in the preferences, grid line how often, however you can have, every inch, every 2 inches, every 3 inches, every millimeter, whatever you want to do. And then these subdivisions, which are these dotted lines, every quarter inch. Look good so far? Okay. The other way normally of getting into the preferences, at least in a Mac, would be to come to the Photoshop and then Preferences. On the PC, I think it's under File and then Preferences, I think. It might be under Edit, but I think it's under File. But on the Mac, it's under Photoshop and then Preferences, and then, again, I came down here to Grid, Guides, and Slices. I'm going to turn the grid off for now, so come back to View, come to Show, and I'm going to uncheck Grid. I'm going to zoom out. I'm just using Command minus to zoom out instead of, that's just a keyboard shortcut. And I'm just going to scroll around some. Another thing you can do is type Command 0. It's Control 0 on a PC. What that will do is automatically zoom your document either in or out so that it fits on the entire screen without you having to scroll around. Sometimes that means it has to zoom out, sometimes it has to zoom in to do that, but you'll be able to see all of your document on the screen at once, which is very convenient at times. Let's see. So let's say we want to make a title for our poster, which is probably a good place to start. Generally, it's a good idea to have planned your poster out ahead of time. I'm assuming that we already know what we want to do with our poster, that we're not in the process of still kind of playing around and deciding what we want to do. It's a really good idea to get a piece of paper, pencil, sketch out a bunch of ideas, maybe go to Google and just Google research posters and see what other people have done to get some ideas. You don't want to copy their design, but you could certainly be inspired by some designs. There are some really good ones out there. There are also some really bad ones out there. So don't assume just because you see a poster online or that it was presented at a conference that it's a good one. You have to use your own judgment there. But it's one place you can go to look. So I'm going to click right here on the text tool. It's a little letter T here over here on the sidebar. You can also press the letter T to get to the text tool. And I'm just going to come over here and click in the general area where I want my text to be. Now, actually, this is at 100 points. If you were to open Photoshop, this would probably be at about 12 points usually. So I'll start you there, and then I'll show you how to increase the size. So I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to type the title of my poster. I don't know, Alice in Wonderland. I know you can't see it, by the way. A study of text and image. That sounds pretty poster conferencey, right? Okay, so here is the text, really hard to see, very small. It's only 12 point, fraction of an inch tall. This is going to be the title for our poster, so we want to make it big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here. There's a bunch of ways you can do this. So I'm just going to click down in the Layers panel. And all these panels, by the way, this and over here, this toolbox here, these are all available in the Window drop-down menu. So if you don't see the Layers panel on your screen, you can come down here and just make sure it's checked. If it's not there, like this, just come to Window, come down to Layers, and it will show up on your screen. So I click on the little thumbnail right here, the little letter T for the text layer. Then I'm going to come up to the option bar for the tools. This will be here as long as I have the the type tool, excuse me, the text tool selected. And choose a different size. I'm going to make it 100 points. It just remembers up here that I had 100 points from before. It goes off the edges of my screen there. So I'm going to come up here and click the Move tool, which is the very top tool here. And then drag my text where I want it to be. That's approximately centered. Now, one thing we can do to make sure it's centered, actually, is to come to View, Show Smart Guides. And you'll see how this works, hopefully. All right, maybe this isn't going to behave for me. I'm actually going to make a guide manually for, let me see, oh, you know what? View. Huh, okay, well, I'll make a manual guide here in the center of my page. If you take on one of these rulers, you can click on either the top ruler or the side ruler. I'm going to click right in the ruler once and then drag. And what this does is it makes a little guideline, and I can put it where I want. I'm going to put it right at the 18-inch mark, which is the center of my page, because my page is 36 inches wide. Just gives me another way to line things up. And I'm not sure why the smart guides aren't working. All right, well, that's kind of a pain. It is kind of snapping to it. I don't know if you can see that. As I get close to the center, bam. See it kind of hard to see. I can see on your screen. But it does realize where the center is, and it makes it very easy to line up in the center. Next, I want to put my name on this poster. So let's put my name. I'll take that text tool, click here. It remembers the size I used before. Toccafondi. I obviously don't want my name to be as big as the title of the image, so we'll come over here, click on that, and this time we'll make this much smaller. Let's make this about 24 points. How about that? Might be a little small, but it'll be fine for now. And I'll go back to the text tool, click on it again, and add some more information. David Toccafondi, University of Pennsylvania. Maybe put my email address, davidtalk@pobox.upenn.edu. Go over here. Whatever you want, whatever information you want to do there is fine. Okay. Are we okay so far? I need some yeses or nos from you guys. Cool. So there's some text. Now, this is a big, wide poster, and I don't want to just kind of randomly put text and images all over this place. I do want to kind of have this look nice. So one way of doing that is to divide your poster into columns. I'm going to make mine 3 columns wide, and to do that, and I want the columns, in my case, to be of even width, which is 12 inches each for 36-inch poster. So I'm going to make some more guides. I'm going to click on that and just drag one out to the 12-inch mark. So this will be one column right here. This is 12 inches wide. Click, drag another one out to the 24-inch mark. There's the second column, and of course here's the third column already in place. When we're laying out our columns, we'll ignore this middle guide here. We don't care about this for the purposes of columns. We do care about it for centering things on the page. And the first thing I want to do is add a text box, okay, to add some text to my poster. So I've got the text tool chosen. I'm going to come right here and click and drag. And let's put a text box here, and I'm going to let go. And here's my text box, and you can see it's in place, and there's a little blinking cursor up here. I don't know how well you can see that. Waiting for me to type my text. Now, rather than type it, chances are you'll have this also. You're not going to type all of your text from scratch. You're going to probably have it in a Microsoft Word document somewhere else, and you can just copy and paste it. So let me switch over to my document. I'm going to copy some text, then switch back, and I'll paste. This is just some text from Alice in Wonderland. Okay. It's a little small. I want the text to be a little bigger and easier to read. That's one of the important things about posters. They are big, and people often read them from a distance, so you want them to be able to see what they're reading. So let's highlight this text. And I'm going to, instead of 24, let's choose 36, which is about ½ an inch high. Now, when I did that, it no longer fits in my text box. And just enter the word do. But I can use these handles to click and drag until I see all my text fit there. And then just click off, and there I have some text. If you decide it's too big, and maybe it is, you can shrink it down again some to a different size. You do want to be consistent on your poster from paragraph to paragraph. Like, all the paragraph text should be the same size, all of the captions should be the same size, etc. Okay, so try to be consistent that way. This goes right up to the edge, and that might bother some people. I know that when I print this poster on our poster printer, it builds in a small 1/4 to ½ inch margin around the edge, so it will have some extra space around the edge when it actually prints. I otherwise would never recommend going all the way to the edge of a poster like this, because it would look horrible when it actually prints. If you want to be safe, you could, one thing we can do is, I can take a guideline, right, like this, and put it in, let's say, at a 1/4 inch, right? So there's an extra guide on that side. Take my text tool, and drag my box in that 1/4 inch if I want to do that. And you could do the same thing over here on this side of it. Now, you don't technically need these guidelines to be able to resize this box. What it does is, if I have another text box now underneath it, I know that I can line it up exactly with this one simply by lining it to this guide. If you just want to eyeball it, you're certainly welcome to do that. So, all right. So that's text. So before I go on to adding images, I just want to stop and see how people are doing, see what questions you might have so far about text and formatting text. No questions. No, you guys know it all, apparently. Okay. Okay. So next I want to add an image. So let me go to File, Open, and I already have some images ready. Let's take the no, let's take our friend the white rabbit. Okay. Now it has opened this document up separately, so it's in a different window. This is like two different Microsoft Word documents open separately from one another. What I want to do is copy and paste this rabbit from this into my poster. Okay, up here, here's the rabbit, and then over here, this is a tab for my poster. You can also see, because sometimes you get so many documents open, they run right off the edge of this, and you're like, where are all my documents? I don't know what I have open. The window drop-down menu is your friend, and down here at the bottom, it will list all of the documents you currently have open. I only have 2 open right now, and I can switch back and forth by clicking on one here as well as clicking on the tab. So here's the rabbit. Let's go to select all. You can just type Command A on a Mac or Control A on a PC. When I do that, I get the marching ants around the edge of the document, which is how Photoshop shows you that you have selected something. So I have now selected this entire rabbit image. Then I'm going to come to Edit, Copy. You can just type Command C or Control C on a PC. I'm just showing you via the menus so that you can actually see what's happening and you don't have to guess what keys I'm pressing on my keyboard. But normally when I do this, I would be doing this with keyboard shortcuts, which is a lot faster. Come back to my Alice poster and type Command, well, I just said I wanted to show you the menus, didn't I? Edit, Paste, or Command V, Control V on a PC. And there is the rabbit. He's actually about the right size in as far as his width goes. We might want to make him a little smaller. When you paste an image, it pastes it as a new layer. So you can see down here that this rabbit is on its own layer, separate from the text. Each piece of text we've done so far is on its own layer. And also this rabbit image here is on its own layer. To make him a little bigger, smaller, ideally, because you don't want to blow up images bigger because it can distort them. I'm going to come to the Edit drop-down menu and choose Free Transform. Command T on a Mac, Control T on a PC. When you do that, you get this nice little box around the outside. And we can do a whole bunch of things with our friend the rabbit now. We can drag it around. I can also grab one of these handles on the side and shrink it down. Now, if I'm just clicking and dragging on the handle, it will let me do this, and it will let me do this. Chances are I don't want to do those things. So instead, if I hold the Shift key down while I'm dragging, it will constrain the rabbit to the proper proportions. So this way it doesn't let me accidentally do this, even a little bit. I just hold the Shift key down while I'm dragging, and it will constrain it to the proper proportions. I just need to make sure I let go of the mouse button before I let go of the Shift key. So let me do that. That looks maybe a little wider here. Okay, there he is. And now I'm just going to drag him around and place him where I want him. I'm going to put it right here. I still see the handles around the edge. I'm transforming this rabbit in order to finalize the transformation. I can either double click right here inside the image, or I can just do what I'm about to do, which is press the return key. And now the handles disappeared, so I know that the transformation is complete. What will happen sometimes is you'll do that transformation thing like this, and you'll try to do something else. I'll click on the, actually this is just not behaving the way I expect it to at all today, is it? Let's get rid of that layer. All right. Sometimes you'll try to, you'll be in the middle of transforming something like this, and you'll go to do something else, and it won't let you, and it's just not behaving weird. Chances are that that's because you haven't decided whether or not you want to finalize this transformation or not. So you just need to press the return key. Or if you change your mind, like if I'm doing, let's say this, oh, I don't want to do this. If I want to cancel the transformation, what I can do is just press the escape key instead, and it will cancel it without finalizing it. Okay, so rabbit, and I'll use my move tool. Oh, got to make sure I have the rabbit chosen. Very important, by the way, for those of you who haven't used Photoshop before or haven't used it much before, with layers, when you're editing your document, you are editing the layer that you have chosen currently. So I want to move the rabbit, so I have to click on the rabbit layer. Okay. There are these little thumbnails here that show you what they are. at the moment on the screen, it's very hard to see what this is. And when you get like 50 images on your screen, trying to figure out which one you're working with can be very difficult. So what I'll do is I will double click on the words layer 1. And you have to double click right on the text itself. If I double click outside the text somewhere, I get this box that pops up. I don't want this box, or at least not yet. I don't want this box. Cancel that. I have to double click right on the words themselves. Double click. Layer 1 becomes active, and I'll say white rabbit. So now I know just to look at it what it is. All right. So I've got some text. I've got some images there. Let me maybe add another piece of text. Come back to our text tool again. Got another piece of text. I'm just switching over to my Word document to grab it. That's what that little box on your screen is. I'll paste that. And it remembers the text size from before. Maybe I want to lower this. It goes off the edge, but that's okay. Maybe add another image. If I'm going too fast for anyone, please let me know. So again, to open an image, go to File, Open. Pick a different image. Let's open the Cheshire Cat. Open. And again, it's on a separate document. So I'm going to select all with this select all here, right? There's those marching ants around the edge. Then edit, copy, switch back to my poster, edit, paste. I'm doing this a little faster now because I already did it once. Take that. Now the cat, of course, is too big. So what am I going to do? I'm going to shrink it down to make it fit inside our column. So again, what we did with the rabbit, edit, free transform. There are those handles. They're a little harder to see now, but they are there. Click on the corner handle, drag it. I'm going to hold the Shift key down to constrain it to the right proportions. Move it around a little bit. Looks good. Let's add another image. File, open. Let's add the king and queen of hearts. So on this particular image, this is interesting. I actually don't want this whole image. If I copy this whole image, I will get all of this white space around it also, which I don't want. I only want the part that is the king and queen. So what I can do to do that is choose the second tool, which is called the rectangular marquee tool. If you've used Photoshop before, chances are you've used that tool before. It's one of the more basic tools. The cursor looks like a plus sign, and I just use it. I just click and drag. And this instead of just selecting the whole document, I am manually choosing what part of the document that I am selecting. So I've only selected this little bit here and left out all of this blank white space. Edit, copy. And let's switch back to our poster. Edit, paste. Whoa, it's really big here, right? So again, we'll go to Edit, Free Transform. Make this smaller so that it fits in the column for us. Well, maybe it's just, we just want it a lot smaller, I guess. How's that? And we'll just center it in the column. Press return to finalize it. And I'm going to grab one last piece of text real fast, just to finish off. Oops, let's see. Oops, sorry guys, I'll be back in a second there. What did I choose before? Okay. Are we back? Yes, we are. Choose text, drag my text box out. And this is, by the way, this is interesting. This is what I was hoping it would do before. Do you see these pink lines that are appearing as I get right there? This is called a smart guide. And basically it lets me know that I am lining up right now automatically with the edge of that king and queen image, right? This is what I was hoping it would do earlier when I was trying to line up the text with the center of the page. And you see as I get close to the center of the image, by the way, it actually lines up automatically with the center. So I know I'm centered on that image. It's actually pretty cool, these smart guides. Sometimes you have to guess what they're lining up with, but generally either it's one side, the other side, or the center. Sometimes it also does things at 45-degree angles when you're rotating things, but we won't worry about rotating today. So there's my text box. I will paste. Okay. Looking pretty good so far. So we've got our text, we've got our title. How's everyone do? How can you make a picture as the background of the poster? I will show you that very thing, actually. In fact, we can do that now if you want, since you just asked the question. Let me go to File, Open. And this is probably not the best one to use, but it's the one I'll use. This is one of Alice herself. And select all, edit, copy, back to our poster, paste. Now, generally speaking, and we'll talk more about this in just a second, you need to make sure that your images are high enough resolution to be able to look good when they get printed. I'm going to show you an example of how that doesn't work in just a minute. But I'll talk about this now since this topic just came up. When you're using the image as a background, you can often get away with a lower resolution image than usual, because what we're going to do is we're going to fade it out so that doesn't stand out as much. So right now you can see it's covering things up, but we'll move it to the bottom in just a second. I'm going to go to that Edit, Free Transform, and I'm going to make her bigger. I'll hold the Shift key down to do this. I'll zoom out and just Command minus to zoom out, and you can see this gives me a lot more room to work with now. Let's put that here, and let's just really, so she's actually only going to fit on like about half the page. And you can see kind of how blurry she is there, even after I finalize this. She'll look a little better, but still a little blurry. Oh, actually that looks pretty nice. So here she is now. Now she is covering up everything on our poster right now, which is of course not what we want. Now she is of course, like all the other image, on her own layer. I'm going to take her and I'm going to click on that layer in the layers panel itself and drag it down. Do you see this little black line that appears between each layer as I drag it? Basically when I let go, Alice is going to show up wherever in the stack that black line is when I let go. So if I let go of this now, she's partway down the stack. Let me scroll the rest of the way down so you can see. So she is below all of these things, so you can actually see these things on top of her. But she's above all of this stuff. So she's covering all of this stuff up. I want to drag her all the way down underneath of them too. Let go. So she's underneath everything now. What I'm going to do with her is I'm going to take the opacity of the layer. So she's completely opaque now. I'm going to fade her away some here by lowering the opaqueness of this particular layer. So click on this, slide this down. Do you see as I slide it down, she starts to fade away? You may decide these images aren't the greatest because there's all this white stuff that lines up with her, and I'll show you a way, without going into too much detail about it, I'll show you a way to hide this white and still show Alice underneath. Okay, so I've got Alice now really faded out. Is this what you were talking about, by the way, Andrea, about using a background image? Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to type Command 0. I talked about this before to fill your entire screen with your document, by the way. Is that going to work for me? Come on. Command 0. So now the whole thing zooms in. All right. Something you can do when you have images that are literally just black and white. When you get other colors involved, this gets a little muddier. and harder to do. But with these, which are great, these sketch drawings, I'm going to click on our friend the White Rabbit. There are these things called blending modes. We could spend easily an hour talking about nothing but blending modes and still not cover everything. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to show you how to do this with these black and white drawings. So here's White Rabbit. I have him chosen. You see, here he is. You cannot see Alice underneath him at the moment. I'm going to come. This is the blending mode drop down for the whatever layer we have active. So right now the White Rabbit layer is in the normal blending mode. There's a bunch of other choices here. The one I'm going to choose, without explaining why really, is I'm just going to choose multiply. And you can see what it does is when you have multiply, white pretty much disappears and black stays black. Everything in between and colors, they do different things, and that would, but fortunately we're dealing with an image here which is just black and white. Okay, now we can do the same thing with the other images, which are, let's see, here's our friends, the king and queen. Actually, they're not our friends. They're pretty horrible people if you read the book. Choose multiply. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the text layer, not the image of the, okay, here's the king and queen, sorry. Multiply, there we go. And then also the Cheshire Cat. This is why you should label your images. Multiply, great. Cat, and we'll label this king and queen, so I know later what they are. So you can actually see her now underneath. Now you may decide that she's actually still a little too distracting there. You may want to reposition her so that her face is more obvious. Let me take her, click on her layer. So I've actually clicked on the Alice layer again, and now I'm going to click and I'm going to move her over. Maybe this is a better place for her so you can see her face. Whatever you want to do with it, basically. You can also decide it's still a little too opaque, even at 27%, and lower it even further. Whatever you think is going to look good. So Max and Andrea, how's that? Okay, good. Let's see. Okay. Most of the time, you know, your images aren't going to be things you probably even want to see through. They're going to be charts and graphs, and they're going to cover up part of your background. So you either want to position your background in such a way that that doesn't matter, or you want a background where it doesn't really matter if you see what it is to begin with. Maybe just a pattern or a design. You can find some good repeating patterns, wallpapers, photographs online that you could use this way. Okay. Another thing I want to show you here is adding maybe a little logo here. So let's add a pen logo. Now, file, open. I'm going to open this pen logo here. Now, this is one that I actually got from the pen homepage. Where's our poster? Here it is. Paste. It's very small. It's right down here. You put it right in the center. I'm going to drag it up. This is the size it is on the homepage of Pen's homepage. I'll make it bigger with the free transform. Edit, free transform, and finalize that. Let me zoom in on that for you. We're doing it? Okay. Now you can see, if you compare the text of Penn and University of Pennsylvania, compare that to the text of Alice and David Toccafondi, this is much crisper. This is just blurry. This looks really unprofessional, and I cannot tell you how many times people come into the lab daily, I would say, easily daily, at least one or two a day, come in and they use this logo for Penn. This is not good. Remember, you're representing Penn here. You want to look good. You don't want people to say, wow, those Penn people can't even afford a good logo. There are other ways you can get a higher quality logo. Either find a higher resolution image, which is one solution, or in the case of the Penn logo, you can actually get them online. Before we leave today, I will show you that URL where you can go and download it. I'm going to click on this layer, and I'm going to hide it. Click on this eyeball. So it's still there, but I've hidden it. And I'm going to go, let's see, how big am I going to make this logo? So this is basically 0 to 4. This is about 4 inches here, so I probably want my logo to be maybe around 3.5 inches, something like that, to go in this space. So I'll go to File, Open, and I have this other one. It's in a file format called EPS, which stands for Encapsulated Postscript. You don't have to remember that. This EPS file allows me to open it, believe it or not, at any size I want, and it will still be perfectly crisp. So File, Open. So it's going to ask me, what size do I want to make this? Our poster you will remember, is at 150 dots per inch, so we want to keep that resolution. And then let's make the width about 3 inches. Click on OK. Okay. So this has a. I'm actually going to add another layer underneath this. It's going to fill. I'm going to fill it with blue. So let me make a new layer and drag it underneath this one. I'm sorry if that's a little complicated for people who aren't used to layers. Let's pick a nice blue. Come back to our Alice in Wonderland. We can pick the same blue. Turn that eyeball back on. Use my eyedropper tool. Eyedropper tool will let you pick. I'm starting to go faster because it's almost 1 o'clock, guys. I'm sorry. To pick any color in the image. So I'm going to click on that. And my foreground color may or may not be obvious to you because it's still pretty dark, but it is this blue that I got from this pen logo. Then I'll hide this again. Switch back to this, and I have my layer here. If I come into the Paint Bucket tool, fill the rest of that layer with that same blue. And I'm actually going to flatten this image now so that I don't have multiple layers. Do the copy and paste thing again, just like I've done with every other image so far. Copy, paste. I want to show you then, as I zoom in on this. Oops, too much. Let's go to 100%. All right, well, there you go. And let me turn on that other layer with the... Okay, so look at this. Right, you can see the difference between the one we just did. Look how crisp this text is compared to the one that we enlarged from the logo on the page. So you don't want to use an image that was intended to be seen at, a couple centimeters high on a web page and print it on a poster. It's just not what it was designed for. Okay, so let's get rid of that old logo again and put our new pen logo back in. Command 0 to zoom out and see everything. I will go into the View menu, Show. I'm going to hide the guides now because that's those blue lines I had. So this is our final poster at this point. I can't believe I got through all this in an hour. How what, Baba? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. What I did was, rather than try to copy both layers, which it would have been, technically is kind of possible, I flattened it first. So I basically compressed it down into one layer. When I had, there you go. So when I have 2 layers here right now, one, I can turn one on or off, right? Just leave one behind. If you come into this little drop-down menu at the top of your layers panel, this menu right here, this button, click on that. One of the choices is Flatten Image. And that basically takes all of the layers and it just flattens it into one layer. So you only have one solid image then. Is that it? Does that answer your question? And then I copied and pasted that. I did it really quickly, I know. Okay, good. There are plenty of other things we could do with this image. I still have some time if anyone has questions about other things I didn't cover. Oh, I do want to show you real fast this. How do I do this? I'm going to stop sharing Photoshop just for a second to give you this URL with the pen logos. It will make you log in with your pen key. There it is. You'll go to this web page, you'll click on one of the EPS logos, and it's important that you grab one of the EPS ones, not the GIF. The GIFs are too low resolution to be using on a poster. But there's a bunch of different versions of the pen logo. You can grab the one that you want. I wish that all of the schools would do this, nursing and vet and SAS and engineering, because just the pen ones are there right now. It'd be nice to have these higher resolution, these EPS formats of the other logos also. So other things I didn't get to do today that you guys have questions about doing this with the with posters. We've still got some time. Oh, was this useful to you guys? Silence. Oh, okay, good. Yes, and it is a start, Molly, definitely. There's so much more you can do. Please feel free to come to the lab and ask. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with lynda.com, lynda.com. They do online video-based training. It's let's see, http colon blah blah blah. There's the URL. We have several subscriptions here in the information comments, and in the lab, you can come and watch these videos for free here. They have some excellent Photoshop training. Actually, they have lots of training. Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Microsoft Office, Twitter, Facebook, everything. Really good, like hundreds of hours of training just on Photoshop alone. So you can come and watch these at your own pace and work along with them. They have example files. You can also subscribe yourself. You can watch these at home or on your iPhone or whatever. It's only $25 a month. I tell people all the time, just subscribe for 1 month and then watch all the videos you can and then cancel. That's completely legitimate to do that. The lab is in the Weigle Information Commons, which is in Van Pelt Library on the far west end of the first floor. The first floor is the floor you come in on, not the ground floor. And then at the far west end, if you ask anyone where Weigle is or where the Media Lab is, they'll be able to direct you. Okay, well, if you guys don't have any questions, thank you very much for coming. I do hope this was helpful, and you learned something new today. In recent years, especially, the Adobe products have done a much better job interacting and interfacing with each other. So yeah, you could definitely use InDesign for a poster. I'm not much of an InDesign person myself in general. I don't know how to use it, but we have some people in the lab who are quite good with it. InDesign is really designed for making publications, which a poster qualifies as, but newsletters, books, magazines is great for that sort of thing. Anything that's really involved with text. In many ways, it may be a better choice than Photoshop. I think, generally speaking, that PowerPoint is still one of the best and easiest choices. Sometimes these Adobe programs are almost too powerful. So you have more control, but it's harder to do the same things that you could do in PowerPoint more easily. It's just that PowerPoint doesn't give you the same level of control that Photoshop does. We do offer an intro to InDesign class. It's certainly not aimed at poster making, but it might get you started. And lynda.com also has some very good InDesign training. Well, that's all I have. No one's asking me questions, so you guys should go to lunch. Has anyone been to that new, I think it's like a Korean truck down by Franklin Field. It's really good, by the way. If you guys haven't been yet, it's kind of, you can get like a kimchi hot dog or edamame tacos or things like that. It's really good. Tyson Bees, it's called. There's usually a long line in front of it, and it's a really colorful truck. If you're looking for somewhere to go to lunch today, I think that's where I'm going. So maybe I'll see you there. Bye-bye, everyone. The Korean Truck Max is down by Franklin Field at the, where is that, 33rd and Spruce-ish? Yeah, 33rd and Spruce. Like near the chemistry building, near Franklin Field, near where the museum is, that corner.